Hello, good crowd. We are so fortunate today. We have with us Steve Klass, who is the executive director of P3 Utah. Steve is all about helping companies develop a triple bottom line, whether they started that way or not. This is going to be a great conversation about the power of business to do good. You don't want to miss this episode.
Welcome to the Your Mark on the World show with your champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Our sponsor, Johnson & Johnson, matches most individual donations up to $250 at caringcrowd.org. Steve, welcome to the show.
Devin, it's an honor. Good morning.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. We're excited to have you on the show. You and I have known each other for a number of years, and you're doing great work here in Utah. Tell us about P3 Utah.
Well, P3 Utah is all about advancing positive social and environmental impact directly through business. We didn't invent the idea of the triple bottom line, but we think there's a lot of work to do in advancing this as a value system and helping businesses that want to do more to do more.
How did you get started in this work, Steve? What was the impetus?
Well, the quick history is I was raised by a couple of humanist social workers who programmed me to believe that I couldn't be happy with life unless everybody in the community that I could learn about, had positive well-being. And so I'm just predisposed that way. And I had a short career in public service and training in public administration that reinforced this idea. So I automatically think about benefiting the community. However, I didn't know that business could be a primary actor in this way until about 18 years ago at the local University of Utah Graduate School of Business. I was exposed to the idea of the triple bottom line, and I fell in love with this idea that business can save the world. And I'm just obsessed with this notion that every human being consumes and every human being makes something, adults anyway, and many children every day. And we're not using this power in our hands to make the world we want. And so that's ever since I learned about this, I can't turn it off. I feel like this is something I will continue to work with as long as I can.
Well, it is a profound concept. Do you have favorite companies that you see in the community that are really doing this well?
Well, sure. And everyone I think knows about, the traditional national models in the United States that we have, Patagonia, Ben & Jerry's, those kind of folks. Locally, of course, we're famous for companies like Cotopaxi, but I think there's some other companies that are very large in their industries. These are manufacturing companies many people have not heard of that leave their industries and also have a profound triple bottom line culture. I'll quickly name them. US Synthetic in Orem that makes synthetic diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
BD Medical, who invented a small thing called the hypodermic needle and are important in blood work around the world. Becton Dickinson, they're a Fortune 500, I believe. Varex Digital Imaging used to be called Varian. And Futura Industries that extrudes aluminum. These are companies sprinkled around our metro area, and they all take the triple bottom line very seriously, involve employees deeply in trying to push more positive social and environmental impact through the business at the workplace every day.
What are the sorts of specific things that they're doing? Maybe you can give us an example or two of the ways in which they are accomplishing this triple bottom line mission.
I'll give you three real quick stories if I can. So US Synthetic, they are a heavy production environment, 24 hours. They have different teams that work together. And the legend, which I think is true there, is they don't wait for top management if someone has an idea how to make things better. Something as small as moving two machines closer together in a work team setting can really enhance productivity. And it's been said that if one team can figure out how to push two machines a half a foot closer together. By the end of 24 hours, every team on every shift already knows how to do that. And that's just the way it's done. At the end of the month, they make more money individually, and the company makes more money. And that's just the way they do things there. They also are a tremendous supporter in the community of STEM education, for example. And they don't have to do this. They just choose to help especially girls and young boys learn about engineering and math, technology. Most of these children will never work for that company, but it's community service, and the company exists to make a better world. Varex is famous for discovering that by taking back their product, as a lot of companies do nowadays, more do, they could make millions of dollars with recycled materials that come out of their equipment. Plus, they're taking things out of the landfill that won't degrade for a long, long time. At Futura Industries, there's a famous story of somebody who was doing one of the white collar jobs. I think it was HR or accounting. Had a real interest in working on the floor, and spent some time looking at the production equipment. Was encouraged through a suggestion box process to research putting in a new machine that was very expensive, but would pay off. And the company now uses those kind of machines to make their products more efficiently and make the company more money. And now that person is, I believe, a production supervisor. That company also decided early on, before the federal government got involved in healthcare, the way that they currently have, that they could be self-insured, and they could have a wellness clinic on site for relatives and even neighbors of their employees, if I got that right. And they've saved their own money by being self-insured and doing preventive health, really taking the bigger picture approach. And I think all these companies are learning from each other. The best companies want to reach across industries and learn from each other. They're humble. Sustainability is a day-to-day mindset. The other thing I would say is that US Synthetic, their CEO told me that whenever they make a big decision, they always think about it from the three angles: people, planet, and profit. They don't make a big decision until they're sure they've found the best decision in the sweet spot for all three impacts. And I think that's just the way to create long-term value. And I think that's what shareholders want. I think that's what employees in the community need.
Yeah. Great examples, Steve. Great examples. Let's talk a little bit more about P3 Utah now. I think you have an annual conference. Are you still doing that?
We'll see about this year. Maybe after 8 conferences, we've done enough. This year, we're focused on penetrating larger audiences, getting our tool set and messages out there. The UN Civil Society Conference that was just here in Salt Lake last week. Silicon Slopes has 20,000 plus attendees. That's the biggest business conference of its type in the state. And the Sorensen Center Winter Impact Summit, dealing a lot with social impact and impact investing. And the Intermountain Sustainability Summit, which is dearest to my heart, but it's very small, maybe 400 or 500 attendees. So I'm going to go where the crowd is.
There you go. Excellent. Well, Steve, how do companies, entrepreneurs join or participate with P3 Utah? What's the model? How do they engage with you?
Well, typically what happens is we get a referral and from part of our network that a company, usually an owner of a small business or a manager at a larger business, thinks the way we do. And we just reach out and say, can we learn more about what you do? I send an intern or myself, we go and visit. And if it pans out, we frequently have a tour, a best practice tour, and see what they're doing. And we notify people through our newsletter, and we encourage them to be with us. It doesn't cost money to get on our newsletter list and learn about our tools. We're especially proud, of course, of our new sustainability toolkit that's available in all 6 official UN languages. It's there for the taking. Our job now is using this podcast and other media to get the word out that we have a free toolkit that can help any business anywhere in the world where people can speak one of these 6 languages to drive more positive social and environmental impact directly through their business every day, every time they turn the lights on.
Tell us more about the toolkit. What's in the toolkit?
Well, it's really very simple. It sounds more profound than it is, but we want it simple. We start with a diagram of our matrix. This is our singular contribution to the triple bottom line idea. I could talk more about that. And we have, and we also have a 3-level bronze, silver, gold kind of scoring system. Our scoring system goes up to 9. We're trying to encourage this adoption of a very simple scoring system. So businesses can look at what they do and say, I'm up to level 3 or 6 or 9, and share that with their employees, with their investors, with potential customers. And people can compare and if we figure out a good way for consumers to have this, they can make choices. Do I buy from a company with a P3 score of 3 or a P3 score of 7? It's kind of your choice. People vote with their purchases every day on what kind of world they want. To go back to the matrix, it'd be great if I held one up here, but in people's mind's eye, think about the triple bottom line. It's just 3 rows, people, planet, profit. And then think of 2 columns, outward facing impact and inward facing impact. I think my unique contribution to the world of sustainability values and business behavior is just this idea that we gloss over and forget that social justice, environmental preservation occurs. It starts in the workplace, and we need to look inside the business. Are we treating people well? Are we creating a healthy environment? Are we using fewer resources? Are we seeking cleaner energy? Are we trying to be efficient and waste less in our production? Are we seeking quality? If you do those things internally and model that kind of value system for employees, when they go home, they're going to be better family members. They're going to be happier and healthier. They're going to make a better world outside work. And every day at work, they will find the workplace their forum for advancing as human beings. We spend most of our waking hours at work, whether it's on the street or in a factory. Let's make a better world and grow as human beings while we work. I think that's the integration component. So we encourage that with our matrix, and everything is based on that in our toolkit.
Excellent. You also have a template there for setting up a benefit LLC or converting to your existing LLC to a benefit LLC, as I recall. Isn't that part of your toolkit?
It is part of it. And I have to apologize because some of your listeners are not in the United States. So I hope and assume. So in the United States, we've developed this model. Other countries have their models, but our model is getting adopted probably by about a dozen other countries as well. We have a close colleague in Philadelphia, the father of benefit corporation law, named William Clark. So Bill developed this idea a little over a decade ago that there was this idea, I think, there's an ongoing concern of the largest companies, and you've interviewed many of these people, they have sustainability officers. They believe in corporate social responsibility. They're trying hard. They're very large, and they're not as nimble. And it will take a while to adjust their models, I think. But the idea is corporations are protected by law traditionally for hundreds of years. All they have to do is generate positive financial returns for their owners. It's hard to do, but that's what the Fortune 500 is best at. That's why they're the Fortune 500. They're making fortunes. However, that doesn't mean that the world is profiting or that the people that are impacted by these businesses are profiting as much as they can. The ecology clearly is suffering. So I think for years, the folks that were involved with walking their talk in impact investing folks, they first figured out how to de-invest to take down apartheid and they said, how can we use the power of investment to drive better business practice? And it was difficult. There are measurement certification programs out there, but there wasn't a business structure that the corporation could use. And that's why the benefit corporation was created. by law, a benefit corporation must seek to produce positive social environmental impact and report on that once a year to their registration entity. This exists in, I'm going to get this wrong, about half of the US states. Utah is one of only 4 states in the United States that not only allows corporations to adopt this structure and legal protection for triple bottom line practice, but also the LLC, the benefit LLC, because most businesses by far in the United States, and I would guess in other countries, their equivalent is this limited liability company. It's easy to set up. Taxes are easy to for newcomers in business to use. So I think we certainly encourage businesses to adopt this because it distinguishes them in the marketplace. Other than the good feeling you have and the profit you generate, why do you want to be a triple bottom line company unless you can really use it for marketing differentiation purposes? And that's what I think this special registration allows you to do.
Excellent. Steve, what are you most proud of having accomplished since you launched P3 Utah?
Well, certainly this idea of the matrix and a simple measurement system and scoring system based on it, which is really only recent. But I think the biggest lesson I've learned is one little organization, even one large organization, can't make all the change we need. Your program's called Your Mark on the World. And what's been my mark? I think this is my only kind of unique mark, but what gives me the greatest enjoyment and what I've learned the most is there's so many other wonderful people in the world, professionals that have expertise in this general area. And I think my greatest pleasure is when I can introduce them to each other. It's helping people share their networks so that they can have leverage and magnify the good that so many millions of people are trying to do every day. This is a planetary team sport. We're all trying to save the web of life. We're all trying to preserve a high quality of life for 10 billion people or however many people we're going to level out at on this planet. We don't want to be just a rock spinning and drifting in our orbit around the sun without humans, without happy and highly productive and joyful humans. And I think we need to transform business to make that happen.
Steve, as you look back on these years that you've been doing this, what is the most important lesson you've learned?
I think I just answered that, so I'll just repeat what I said a different way. What's impressive thing I've learned is that, well, the 2 things I've already mentioned is, 1, we pass up opportunities every day to make a better world. The subtle things we do, how we spend our money, who we if we have decisions on where to work or who to support in commerce. I mean, we're largely commercial beings. We're purchasing and supporting business and using business services all the time, and we don't think all day long, how do I make a better world? How do I make a better world? It's nerve-wracking to have to remind yourself, but once you get in the habit, that's really important. So I think that is the one thing. And again, the idea that the answer is distributed. The power is distributed and the answers are distributed. So we all need to do a much better job of connecting to each other, not saying you have to use my thing, although I wish people would use our free tools. If someone can come up with a better tool or a way to integrate our idea in their tool or show me they have a better way of doing it, I'll be all in. I think we all need to have a race to see who can make it easier to save the world, and let's all support that way of doing it. That's the exciting game, adventure game that all humans are engaged in for the next, half century. We either exit this century with business as a positive force, and that's the only way we'll accept it and do it, or society will be largely degraded, and that'll be sad. I won't be here. You won't be here unless you have a longevity to your life I don't know about that lets you live another century. But you will be looking from heaven, and I hope we'll be cheering.
Yeah. Steve, what is your superpower?
my superpower is a form of problem solving, ideation. I call agenda merging. Especially this came out when I was a paid employee of state government, or I was a private consultant. Frequently, you're called upon to help somebody, usually a client, customer, get past some barrier that they're really baffled by. And what I found is, if you would just get over the fear and just walk up to that wall, think of barriers as a wall. You walk up closely to the wall, and what you find is, oh, there's a way to get over this wall. There's a way around this wall. There's a way we can pull down a couple bricks in this wall. If we really examine it closely, we find out, there are stakeholders to us that care about what we care about, that actually operate doors in this wall. And if we knock the right way and talk the right way and act and consider their agenda as important, they'll open the door. Sometimes they'll help us tear down the wall. And so that's my superpower, is finding how to get around barriers by better engaging stakeholders, getting over fear and addressing barriers. Now, the limit to my superpower is it works on other people, but I can't make myself a billionaire or get my P3 toolkit in everybody's hands. I have barriers that I can't face. I need people outside of me to see my barriers. It's like you can't be a mirror for yourself. And so I think that's all great consultants have ever been, is great mirrors for their clients, one way or the other.
Wow, interesting. Well, Steve, really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Appreciate your insights. Before you go, I wonder if you would take a minute and tell people how they can learn more about P3 Utah and how they can connect with you personally.
All right, it's just really simple, and these things are connected. It's through the internet, p3utah.org, p3utah.org. And if you want to reach me, it's simple. I love email, and I will respond. It's sklass@p3utah.org, and I'm sure that'll be in your podcast notes somewhere.
Now, that's great, Steve. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We wish you every success in the great work you're doing to leverage the power of business for doing good in the world.
Thanks for helping me save the world through business, Devin. It's been an honor.
All righty. Let's do some good.
At Caring Crowd, we believe everyone has the power to make a difference. Through our crowdfunding platform for community health, we empower passionate people to drive real change. Whether you work for a nonprofit organization, volunteer, or want to get involved for the first time, you can post a campaign on Caring Crowd. Join us, because caring is where change begins.
Thanks for tuning in to the Your Mark on the World show, the Social Impact Podcast. Please subscribe via YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or Spotify.